Yo, 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 what's up? Hello and welcome back to the Lenko Show. I am your host, Alex Lenkowski, and today I'm flying solo on this one. Chris isn't around. We've missed a couple these last weeks or last few weeks, and I wanted to make sure I tried to get something out for you and try and get back on track, try and get back to normal. Obviously, it's been a bit hectic with our recent GB fixture over in Denmark, which I'm very pleased to say we've won. And you can probably also tell I sound a little bit different. I am feeling rather under the weather. I feel like trash, actually, to put it bluntly, is what I would say. I've felt like absolute garbage ever since pretty much straight after the game in Denmark. So I'm wallowing in self-pity a little bit at the minute, feeling very sorry for myself. So I can hear the violins playing somewhere. Feel free to feel sorry for me. Feel free to take pity on me, but also feel free to be merciless and unrelenting. Feel free to tell me to just get on with it. That's the phase I'm at the minute. So my apologies for that. I am steadily getting back to normal. I have literally done nothing this week other than the bare minimum in terms of what I've been able to deliver for clients, being able to speak to them, just being able to look after them, making sure they've got the basic stuff covered, taking the dog out for a walk a couple of times, playing with him now and again. He kind of took pity on me as well on the Monday, where I think he could tell I was absolutely ragged. And then Tuesday, he was kind of, right, you've had your day of rest, get on with it now. And started causing me issues, grabbing cushions, stealing hoodies, taking my shoes, tearing up tissue boxes with tissues in them. It got a little bit chaotic and was pushing my buttons, shall we say. So apologies if you do hear a few sniffles and coughs here and there. It's literally just pouring out of me at the minute. That's the way it feels. My training this week, therefore, has been pretty much sleep, eat, hydrate, loads of water. I've drunk 1 cup of coffee all week, and that was today. That's how bad I felt. I've not even wanted coffee. I've just been on various hot drinks and fluids, banging in a few paracetamols and trying to feel human, trying to feel somewhat human. So training wise, all I've done today, I've literally done my first bit of like real training movement again today, where I decided I was going to get on the belt squat. I just wanted to feel the legs, wanted the legs to burn, wanted them to hurt. So I did multiple sets, many reps. It's probably equated to about a 10 by 10 German volume training style session, followed by some various types of leg extension. I've actually come up with a relatively, for me, I would say creative plank or a single leg plank leg extension variation, which I will be releasing a video on this shortly. When I'm feeling more up to it and I want to video myself again, I will be filming this, releasing the exercise on my Instagram and on YouTube. I haven't seen anyone do it before, so I impressed myself with this one. I will give you a brief overview. So get a plyo box. Doesn't matter what height, 20 inches, 24 inches, don't really care. You're going to rest one foot up on there as if you were going to do like a Bulgarian split squat kind of thing. So laces down or front of your ankle resting on it, bottom of your shin resting on it. And then you're going to go into a plank position, straight arms. So push-up position. Only one leg stays on the box. And then you're going to bend your knee and drop your body weight down towards the box. And then you're basically just going to use all leg, all quad, and extend and then push yourself back up into that straight leg position as well. Hopefully that gives you a rough idea. If you can work it out from that, well done. But I will be releasing the video. Anyway, today's episode 76. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 75, featuring my ADHD diagnosis with Luke Neal. This one has come about just through a real contrast of situations, examples, emotions, and general thoughts whilst watching and performing and being part of a team. I want to discuss the difference between successful, high-performing teams and failing teams. And the key example I'm going to use for this as a Man United supporter at the moment is Man United. I do not know another team on the planet where the bar of expectation is, quite rightly so, incredibly high. The amount of talent, the resources, there is nothing that you can be found wanting for other than a leaky roof and a shit stadium and really bad ownership. The theoretical performance output for the 11 players that you could put on the pitch should be through the roof. They should be one of the best teams in European football or in world football. And instead, the actual performance output is in the toilet. I do not know another team where there is such a gap between expected theoretical performance, if you like to phrase it that way, and actual performance. They are so bad at the moment. And as a supporter, I'm literally watching them, not in anticipation or hope that we get a result anymore, because I don't think it isn't there. I don't see where the next result or the next goal is even coming from. I literally watch Man United these days just purely out of curiosity to see how bad we're going to be, because we don't run, they don't tackle, they don't compete, they don't pressurize, they lack any sort of aggression, any form of physical strength, power. They're mentally weak, emotionally fragile, emotionally unstable, and unfocused. And I do not know if I can give a more damning insult about a team or any performer than to say that about it. I do not think it gets worse than that. You can be bad, you can be unskillful, you can just have an off day, but for me to say those things, there is no other way I could actually insult them more than to say those things about them. That for me is as bad as it gets. It is a cardinal sin. And when I contrast that to the Great Britain American football team, which again, I've been an absolute privilege to be a part of. It's been a privilege to be on the roster, on the sideline with those players, those coaches, and to travel out to Denmark and compete on the international stage again is beyond compare. We don't get paid to do that. It is an expense for us, right? So first and foremost, there's a huge difference. Man United players are getting hundreds and thousands of pounds a week. Quite rightly. Well done. You've earned it. Congrats. You've gone through childhood and you've developed and you've built yourself a career. You've got yourself to the point where you can be paid as a professional athlete. Well done. Now what? We, as amateur athletes, are essentially paying through the nose to be part of the program, to represent the country, to perform at our best. And there is a moment in that Denmark game that I think typifies us as a team, as GB, versus what I'm seeing from Man United. So there was, I think it was a run play, our running back, possibly Joe Nicholson at the time. I apologize if I get it wrong. He's probably not listening to this, but quite possibly Joe Nick. Or maybe that was just for the Manchester Titans against London Warriors one. Either way, one of our players has the ball and he's pretty much getting held up. And then all of a sudden, one pushes, another lineman comes in, pushes the pile. The pile starts trundling forwards. It is literally like watching a rugby scrum. And it must have traveled about 10 yards. And there's no skill involved. There's no tactics. There was no, right, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to draw it up this way. There was none of that. It was purely seeing the opportunity and just thinking, I'm going to help my mate. I'm going to help my teammate here, and I'm going to give everything. And they piled in, even the QB, Sam Bloomfield, you can see him make a beeline for the pile to steer it towards the goal line before it got out of bounds. And they powered it over the line. And for me, that sums us up as a team. That's what it's like. Giving every single thing you possibly can for your mate lining up next to you. And at the minute, Man United are so far away from that. I don't know how they can even turn it around. Like it feels like it's below rock bottom. It is that bad. It is that poor on the pitch, from experienced players through to the younger players coming through who've got really bad examples in front of them. I'm sorry. And it looks leaderless as well. So I'm going to touch on a few things that come into that. And yeah, thank you, Man United. You are purely the reason that this podcast is existing today, because I wrote a client email last week. And if you're not on my weekly emailer, you can find it on my Instagram profile. If you click on the link tree, you can subscribe to my weekly email list. And the topic last week was built on the phrase, it doesn't matter why, it just is. And at the moment, well, let me dig into that a little bit, to be fair, because when I say it doesn't matter why, it just is, that is in the heat of the moment. If a decision goes against you, don't ask why. Doesn't matter why. If the situation isn't in your favor, it doesn't matter why. It just is. That is the reality. Just accept the reality. We had a phrase when I played at Tamworth, which was just put the ball down. Put the ball down. Next play. Let's go again. Let's not waste time complaining, debating, deliberating, whining at referees. And that was something, even when we were a winning team, I'll go back to my Tamworth days again. When we were a winning team, I remember there was one particular game, it might have been in the COVID year, we were playing against Leicester. And we'd done it quite a lot through the season, actually, where I think it wasn't COVID, maybe it was pre-COVID. There was a situation where week on week, we found ourselves in a sticky situation, a tighter game than expected, a little bit of a battle. People were unhappy. People were getting a little bit heated with each other, and there were arguments going on. And there was an awful lot of complaining at referees. And I remember saying that has to stop. Like, if anyone's going to complain at a referee, make it a coach. Let them deal with it. As players, there's nothing that we can do. The referees aren't going to change their mind. It is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Let it go. Deal with the situation. Focus all your time, all your effort, all your energy on dealing with the situation. Now, there was a perfect example. I watched the Man United v Newcastle game last night, and there was a free kick. I think this might have been for Newcastle's second goal. There was a free kick given round about the middle of the pitch. There were 4 or 5 Man United players standing around where the referee was. Every single one of them had their arms in the air, whinging at the referee, going, "Oh, what is this for?" And whilst they're all doing that, Newcastle player puts the ball down, plays a pass out wide, they're on the attack. Straight away on the back foot, because you were too busy whining with your arms in the air, waving them around, wanting reality to be different. And it was never going to happen. And that is a perfect summary of the lack of focus and the weak mentality that I'm actually talking about. So if we go into what separates winning teams from losers, chumps, the people that you don't want to be around. And this is why I struggle so much to care about Man United at the minute, because they're not even the kind of team that I want to watch. They're not the personalities that I want to see. The effort isn't what I want. That's not what I expect from a team. I can't buy into that team and support that team and hope it wins, because it is so far removed from what I actually believe in. So if we start off by defining sort of like what makes a winning team, like why does a winning team win? Because ultimately it's not just about the victory. The victories add up after you get everything else correct. The first part is getting the process right. And that's about being cohesive as a group. It's about trusting each other, knowing where each other's going to be at any moment in time, being able to essentially know each other's jobs and know what someone else is thinking before they even do it. And if you can get on the same page, if you can get in the same rhythm, you have got a very good chance. You could be less skillful, you could be less physically strong, you could be less competent, but if you're all on the same wavelength and you're thinking faster than the other team, You've got a chance. A winning team will also have a shared vision, shared goal. That'll be super clear as well. I believe Pep probably put on the in the Man City changing room or in the physio room, or probably had it everywhere last year. Like their vision, their goal was to win the Champions League, no matter what. That was what they were going for. And in the end, the sickening way, they ended up winning fucking everything. Just to rub dirt in the wound. Well, they were so clear on what they were going to do, and they went out and did it. You have to have clarity. You have to have clarity on what your goal is, what you're all aiming for, and you all need to believe it and buy into it and understand. Not just like, any team could come out and say, oh, well, we want to win this. It's like, well, okay, cool. Like, I know you all want to win that, but do you understand the process of what goes into winning that? What makes you think that we will automatically win it just because we all want it? Like, are your actions actually going to add up to that? It's also about having that relentless pursuit of excellence, regardless of results, because results might not come straight away, but having that relentless pursuit of excellence to go again and again and again, even if you lose, even if things don't go right, is to keep going, keep chipping away, keep hammering at it. And those winning teams have a clear identity. As I said, every member understands their role and how it contributes to the overall team success. And on the flip side, failing teams lack direction. They lack unity. There is certainly a lot of that I can see on the pitch at Man United. They might be loaded, and this is a key one, they might be loaded with individual talent, but the talent isn't either harnessed effectively or the talent is just underperforming. Again, I'm going to pick on someone here, but I'm going to pick on Marcus Rashford. But every time he gets shown on TV, every time the camera pans to him, I always see him looking at the floor. I don't understand why he's looking at the pitch. What are you looking at the ground for? There's nothing down there. It's just grass. Have you dropped something? Get your head up. Hold yourself high. Like when you look at some of these world-class players, if you look at Ronaldo, look at Messi. Messi's only short. Look at those guys. They look 10 foot tall just with the way that they carry themselves. Change your posture. I mean, the amount of times I've spoken on this podcast in previous episodes, and this is a lesson for you as if you're a kid, if you're younger, if you're listening to this and you want to grow up and be an athlete, if you want to be a professional, you can use your mind and your body and essentially use your physiology to create energy and trigger more positive thoughts, emotions, and actions just by little triggers. Hold yourself differently. Be confident. Understand that your physiology will dictate your mentality. If you carry yourself like depressed, down, head forward, looking at the ground, everything's shit, you will continue to produce that. And that's where your confidence levels will go. Get your head up, look up, be 10 foot tall, think you're 10 foot tall. Believe you're above everybody else. Believe that you're going to win your one-on-ones. Believe that you're better than your opposite number every single time. Messi, Ronaldo, Haaland, like any of the world-class players, that's how they look at how they carry themselves. Mbappe, another example. Rarely will you see them kind of looking at the ground, sulking, just go, rub the nose, spit a bit. Get on with the game, get your head up and take control of your own posture, take control of your physiology. So the next thing, poor communication, lack of trust, internal conflict within the team. It feels like there's a lot of that. And I think some of that comes down to the gap in leadership, which again is huge. So winning teams will have strong, charismatic leaders, people that can rally their teammates. Like I heard head coach of the New York Jets describe the elite level of leadership as a commander. It's someone that you don't just hear them speak, you feel them, and they pull people with them. Like they do things, lead by example, and other people come along. They just get like, whether it's like they've got their own gravitational pull. People just follow on and flow with it. And that is crucial. And at the minute at United, I don't understand. I don't know who the captain is. Since they took it off Harry Maguire, who, like, to be fair, was having a horrific time. He was underperforming. He was in and out of the team. And that can't have been nice for him. To be fair, it speaks a lot about his character that he's actually performing and turning in, week out now, and he's becoming much more reliable. But still, it was a lot for him to have to deal with. Then you've got strong characters like Bruno Fernandes I'm talking about here, where strong character, great player, loads of personality, but not leadership characteristics. He's not the kind of guy who I think you can rely on when it is a backs to the wall situation and you're in the weeds and you're essentially scrapping and fighting for your lives. I don't feel like he's the kind of guy that you would rely on. I think he's someone who's great to have when everything's going well and everything's hunky-dory, but absolutely not. When you're in the shit and you need bailing out, would I rely on him? I don't think so. So you need people who are going to make tough decisions and ultimately just lead by example. And this is where failing teams suffer from leadership issues, lack of leadership. There might be a complete vacuum in the team where it's like, well, who's in charge? Then other times there's a lack of accountability. No one's actually holding anybody to a high standard. We saw this with, again, going back to Man United. I apologize if you are, well, I suppose if you're a Man United fan, a lot of this might make sense. If you're not a Man United fan, you might either be hating this episode or absolutely loving the fact that you're listening to me whinging about it. But I want you to try and, if you were to remove that aspect from it, see it from a team perspective, a management perspective. I'm going to use Cristiano Ronaldo as an example here, where he tried to hold people accountable, tried to pull people along with him. People weren't willing to do it. There's a load of unrest in the dressing room. Next thing you know, Ronaldo's out on his arse off to Saudi Arabia. If there's no ownership, if there's no accountability, if there's no consequences for not engaging with the process, and I think that's what it comes down to. It's about engaging with the process. If there are no consequences for not engaging with it, where'd you fall back to? What have you got? If you're not going to arrive at training on time, if you're not going to put the work in, if you're not going to do the running, if you're not going to put yourself out there and make yourself vulnerable to the point where you simply just get beaten by someone who's better than you, it's almost like there's a lot of fear there and you're afraid to push forwards and you're afraid to go one-on-one with someone because of what it might mean and what people might say. You got to let it all go. You have to let it go. So I think, taking ownership has always been a fundamental part of everything I've spoken about on these podcasts. But if nobody is doing that, and it doesn't look like anyone is, it looks like you've got a couple of people that want to try. Again, Anthony Martial, Man United, another example, just kind of trots around. I don't understand what he's actually aiming to do. I could rewatch the game and I could go back, I could rewatch the Man City game, I could rewatch multiple games over the last, I'm not even beyond the Eric Ten Hag era, of Man United teams and the same players, incidentally, performing week in, week out, and not doing basic things, not doing fundamentals right. And I mentioned before that, failing teams, this Man United team in particular, mentally weak, emotionally unstable, they were fragile. Again, this is something else that happens to failing teams where they crumble under pressure. Unlike winning teams where, they have the ability to step up a notch, they go up a gear, they accelerate, they push harder, they fight, they scrap even more when the pressure's on. Failing teams just completely crumble under pressure. And I think back to the last few years where I've seen that happen. Man United have been getting beat by 1 or 2, and then all of a sudden it's 5, 6, 7. And not even by great teams. Well, I suppose I should say not by great teams. Not by teams that you would expect to necessarily do that to someone. And these are also teams that you rarely get these scorelines with them week in, week out anyway. But, Brighton, Brentford, those are the kind of teams that have been putting 4 and 5 goals past Man United. Even if they played against West Ham, you might not get that. It is freak situations like that, and they've been all too common with this particular era of Manchester United. And it's embarrassing as a supporter. It is thoroughly embarrassing. So crumbling under the pressure, you have to stand up to it. You have to be physically, mentally, emotionally strong as a player and go head first at it, as opposed to just sitting around pointing fingers, making excuses, and motivation levels dropping. Again, engage with the process, get back after it, being resilient, being mentally tough. You need to embrace that and embody that, have that as part of your DNA, not just kind of go, oh yeah, obviously it's a really disappointing day. All we can do is apologize to the fans. We've let ourselves down. We've let everybody else down. Yeah, you fucking have. Stop apologizing. Stop apologizing on Twitter and do something about it. So, I feel like this is just like a massive cleanse. It's just like a massive monkey off my back here. So the question is, well, what do you do about it? So, number one, you need to have a growth mindset. You need to be seeing every moment, every win, loss, draw, every one-on-one battle as an opportunity to grow, get stronger, develop, get better. If you get beat by someone, go get beat again. But give them everything. Fight for it. Give everything you possibly can. And I think this is where it's all, for me, this is where it all falls down. This is where it all falls short. When people and teams, and I recorded a podcast on this a few episodes back, when people don't try, where do you go? What can you possibly do? So winning teams, winning athletes, the winning mentality sees losses, moments as opportunities to improve, opportunities to get better. Again, you focus on the process, the journey, not just the outcome. And this is where Man United at this particular moment in time need to massively focus on the process. They need to forget the cup. They need to forget the league. They need to forget the Champions League. They need to forget every competition they're in and just focus on playing fucking football and winning one-on-ones. Go and beat the person opposite you. That is the number one job. Do that, and you give everyone else around you a chance to do it as well. And then, it also helps if you have mental strategies in place to cope with setbacks and to stay motivated. And again, I would generally revert back to think about what the overall goal is. In Man United's case, very difficult this year because the overall goal might have been to win the league or finish in the Champions League places, and that ain't going to happen. So in terms of staying motivated, I would typically say remind yourself of the overall goal. What is it you are trying to do? What are you all buying into? Why are you all there? In the case of the Great Britain team, the reason we're all in Denmark is to beat Denmark. That was the job. To be number 5th ranked team in Europe. We all wanted that. We'd already engaged in the process. We've been doing the process all year long since January. And for a year before that, for the majority of us. Next year, it's the same job. We've got 10 months to lead up to playing against Sweden and then Germany. And they will be 2 massive games. But eventually, we want to get to the point where we are contesting for the gold medal game to be the number 1 ranked team in Europe. That's the goal. That's what we're aiming for. And we're only ever going to get there if we engage with the process, and every year we get a little bit better. One step at a time. We continue to develop and improve as a team. And again, I guarantee it, Jason, if he listens to this, he will remind us at the first session, the second session, the third session, every session, all the way up through to the point where we play those games. And when we get to those games, it'll be, we win this game. This is the most important thing right now. This is what we're doing. This is what we're about. And even in those sessions leading up to it, it'll be a case of, this year we are working towards beating Sweden and beating Germany. That's the job. That's the plan. So consistently remind yourself of the goals and make sure that ultimately you've got either a group of players or a group of captains, leadership group or management. Basically, everyone in the organization is able to actually communicate with each other effectively. Like, winning teams do this better than anybody else. The All Blacks do it. Like, I always think the best teams manage themselves from the dressing room outwards. If you've got accountability in and amongst the players, it stops the management from having to step in and do that job for them. I always think this was one of the things that Sir Alex Ferguson got right at Man United, where he had Roy Keane as a captain. Lots of strong personalities where they would hold each other accountable. They would hold each other to an incredibly high standard, to the point where the manager, the head coach, the hierarchy above never actually had to step in and be involved and say, right, cut that shit out. Because as soon as you get to that point where managers and coaches have to tell players, Matt, you can't do that. That ain't happening. You've probably got the wrong leaders. Fundamentally, if captains are allowing certain things to happen and management doesn't like it, if management then has to go in and step in and engage with the rest of the team and the players that are doing it, whatever it is, you've got the wrong leaders within the group, because the group is kind of always going to steer itself. And if coaches have to consistently put it back on track, it makes life incredibly tough, and it creates, I would say, a lot of tension, friction. Friction's a better word. Friction within the group, where certain people in the team will start whinging about management start whinging about players, and then you start that culture of bitching and backbiting, which isn't effective. It's not good. So communication's got to be top-notch. Accountability's got to work from within the group. You've got to be able to listen to each other, share ideas, have opinions, have constructive feedback without consequence. Like, you have to be able to speak to each other candidly and give honest, open opinions without the purpose of just belittling someone and hammering them down. And ultimately, that's going to forge tighter, stronger bonds. And that's going to help hold the team together. So, and again, this is where, if you look at failing teams, they'll do the opposite of this. They'll do the opposite. So it'll be communication breakdowns, misunderstandings, egos will be involved. Listening will lead, well, there'll be a lack of listening. No one will listen. Everyone will kind of just go, yeah, whatever, I got it. And then that's just going to lead to chaos and dysfunction within the group, which I think you becomes very evident when you see it on the pitch. That lack of cohesion that I talked about being fundamental at the start. And it all starts to fall apart. So I think there's a couple of really good examples there, a couple of real simple things that you can actually do to work on it and ultimately make sure that you're not part of a team that is, or a team or a culture that is failing, losing, and going backwards. And especially if you're a sports team, you don't want to be involved in that situation. You don't want to support a team like that because it's embarrassing, it's hard to watch, it's painful to watch. And yeah, it can be very depressing in that way. So hopefully, I know I've talked quite a bit today about Man United, but I hope you've not been bored by that. I hope it's actually been insightful and interesting, and you can see how it would relate to your own team or your own business situation or your own, like everyone's realistically part of a team, aren't you? Whether it's whether it's at work, whether it's with colleagues, whether it's with family, everyone's part of some form of unit, and the same qualities that involve that unit functioning effectively flow all the way throughout. So whether it's team sport or day-to-day life, hopefully you can see the comparisons there. Anyway, that wraps it up for me today. I will be hosting a game day kicking clinic that is coming up on the 5th of November. There is actually still time to sign up for that. So if you're interested in kicking, whether it's for football, rugby, men's sport, women's sport, juniors, you're all more than welcome to sign up. It's held in Nottingham from 12 till 3 p.m. Starting this Sunday. And then there is a second camp that I'm going to be running, which will be on the 26th of November. So signups are also still available for that. So if you are interested, if you do want to get involved, you can book through on that. The link for that is available via my Instagram, or you can drop me a message and I will set you up. But until then, that is it from me for today. I will be trying to get a few more guests on over the next couple of weeks. So hopefully you won't just have to listen to me whittering away, boring you to death with my irritations and frustrations about Man United. Equally, if you have enjoyed this episode, I'm glad. Please let me know. Please leave a little comment or a bit of feedback. That'd be wicked. And until next time, take care, train hard, train smart. And if you are a bit under the weather, be sensible. Don't just break yourself down and batter yourself. All right. Train smart, guys. Look after yourselves, and I will speak to you soon.